The family that I was raised in was Jewish. I went to 5 years of Hebrew school, 3 days a week. I was bat mitzvahed and everything.
Rebecca Kiessling was adopted at birth. Though she wasn't Jewish, her parents raised her as one of their own. Kids her own age, however, saw it differently.
My classmates would remind me, as I well knew, that I wasn't really one of them. And I was called names, and I felt like I was outside of God's grace, outside of God's family. And if I could just find this birth family, then I could find out where I fit into this world and into God's plan, if at all.
She decided to find out who her birth parents were and why they put her up for adoption.
When I was in middle school, I demanded that my parents tell me who the lawyer was who handled my adoption. And they gave me the information. So I called him and I said, you know, you handled my adoption. I want my information. And he said, well, you have to be 18.
So when she turned 18, Rebecca contacted her caseworker and got the documents she needed.
It had all kinds of details about my birth mother, her eye color, hair color, height, weight, age, her ethnicity, religious background, occupation, educational level.
Then she read about her father.
For my father, all it said was that he was Caucasian and of large build. And of course I thought that sounds like a police description. I asked her, was my mom raped? And she said, yeah, I didn't want to tell you. And I was just devastated. I remember feeling so ugly and so unwanted and really thinking who would ever love me.
Yet she still wanted to meet her birth mother.
I met my birth mother when I was 19. Basically, a judge had allowed a caseworker to try to contact her and see if she wanted to meet me, and it worked. And I called her. She said that she was sorry to hear that I already knew that I was conceived in rape, but then she filled me in on some horrific details that I was totally unequipped to hear. And then she told me that she would have aborted me if it had been legal.
After that, Rebecca's self-image was even worse than before.
And so I really settled in relationships. Like, I should be thankful that somebody would want to be with someone like me. And those relationships became abusive, and ultimately I was beat up by a boyfriend from law school. He broke my jaw. My front tooth was hanging.
Rebecca ended the relationship, but the damage had been done.
I had really hit rock bottom. From all outward appearances, I had so much going for me. I excelled in academics and athletics. I was going to a great law school, but I was really deteriorating on the inside.
Then a friend invited her to church.
They played the song Amazing Grace, and I just cried and I broke down, and I knew that I had squandered the gifts that God had given me. Now it wasn't just the issue of sort of this, stain on my life because of my conception, but it was now all of my sin, all of the bad choices that I had made. It was really just like in the song Amazing Grace, to think that he saved a wretch like me. It was just really amazing.
It was the message of grace that gave Rebecca a new perspective on God's love and herself.
I got a good foundation at that point and began to learn more about what God has to say about orphans, and that it's in the spirit of adoption that we're called to be God's children through Christ. Like, wow.
Once she realized how much God loved her, Rebecca started to believe that others could love her too.
By the time I met my husband, I had decided that I was going to only kiss one more man in my life, because my kisses are precious. We waited 2.5 months to have our first kiss. It was in the Grand Canyon, and it was spectacular. But we knew that that meant that we were getting married.
When Rebecca and Bob married, her parents and her birth mother were there, standing beside their daughter.
My husband likes to joke that he got the short end of the stick because he ended up with 2 mother-in-laws. But it's really neat. I mean, it's beautiful. My birth mom and I are very close today. She's Grandma Joanne to all of my children.
Today, Rebecca and Bob have 5 children. 2 of them are adopted. Rebecca lives her life by one very important truth.
Ultimately, I know that my worth is that I have an infinite value. I mean, Jesus paid an infinite price. And that's my worth. I mean, that Jesus died for me. He paid an infinite price. I am not worthless. I'm priceless.